We're continuing in the Tafsir of the Quran. We're on the third surah, Surat Al-Imraan. We're in the fourth juzu. We're going to start at ayah 149. The author says, starting with the word of God Almighty, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تطيعوا الذين كفروا يردوكم على أعقابكم. O those who have believed, if you were to obey those who disbelieved, if you were to lower yourselves to them and flatter them and seek their asylum, يردوكم على أعقابكم, they would turn you on your heels. That is, they would turn you away from your religion. فَتَنْقَلِبُوا خَاسِرِينَ, then you would become disbelieving losers. If you were to lower yourselves to them and flatter them and seek their asylum, yeah, they will take advantage of you. And flattering them, that's mudahana, al-mudahana. The one who flatters the kafir and flatters it like bad people. It's called mudahin. You could say a kiss up, and you could say many other words there. This is dispraised quality. Rather, the Muslim needs to stay firm on his position. فَلِلَّهُ مَوْلَاكُمْ, rather, Allah is your mawla, your supporter. وَهُوَ خَيْرُ النَّاصِرِينَ, and He is the best of supporters. So rely on Him alone and obey Him, not them. سنلقي في قلوب الذين كفروا الرعب بما أشركوا بالله ما لم ينزل به سلطانا. We shall cast fear into the hearts of those who disbelieved because of their joining in partnership with Allah, yani because of their making a partner with God, that which He did not reveal any authority. Allah did not reveal any authority for them to give Him partners. And He didn't reveal any permission to take any religion other than Islam. وَمَأْوَاهُمُ النَّارُ, and their resort is the fire. وَبِئْسَ مَثْوَى الظَّالِمِينَ, and what a bad home it is for the unjust, because that place is an extremely hostile environment. وَلَقَدْ صَدَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ إِذْ تَحُسُّونَهُم بِإِذْنِهِ, by God, Allah was truthful to you companions in His promise of victory, since you were wiping them out by His permission. That's in the Battle of Uhud, second battle. The one some people think the Muslims lost that battle. They didn't lose that battle. And like we said last time, at first they were doing to the kuffar like they were doing in the Battle of Badr. And here Allah says so. إِذْ تَحُسُّونَهُم بِإِذْنِهِ, you were wiping them out by His permission. حَتَّى إِذَا فَشِلْتُمْ وَتَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, until when you cowered and you disputed about the matter. When did they cower? They cowered when the enemy came back on them. But the enemy didn't come back on them until the archers left their posts. And you disputed about the matter. Here, this dispute, I'm not sure what dispute is this ayah referring to. The archers themselves, they did dispute before some of them abandoned their posts. They disputed with each other because some of them said, it's over, let's go get the spoils. And the others, they said, the messenger of Allah said not to leave our post, even if it looks like we're winning. SubhanAllah, I think I don't know about you, but for me, The Prophet said, don't leave your post, even if it looks like we're winning. How did some of them see that they should leave their post? Subhanallah wa bihamdi. But the Sahaba were not perfect, all of them. They were not all perfect. Some of them reached the levels of perfection, like Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali and others. And not all of them reached this level. And not all of them were scholars. And not all of them were pious. That's not a disparagement of the Sahaba, it's just mentioning reality. Anyone who thinks all the Sahaba were scholars, yani really, he's a moron. And anyone who thinks all the Sahaba were pious, also he's a moron. That's not disparagement of the Sahaba. The Sahaba were more knowledgeable than others. That's a general statement. And the Sahaba were more pious than others. That's a general statement. Some of the successors to the companions were more knowledgeable than the companions, and some of them were more pious than companions. Not the companions, than companions. Some of the successors of the Sahaba were more knowledgeable than companions. And some of them were more pious than companions. You have a question here. Who? The question is not clear for me. Are you asking me which one of the successors of the Sahaba had more knowledge than some of the Sahaba? And which one of them had more piety than some of the Sahaba? Maybe that's your question. But I don't like to guess somebody's question. So if that's your question, the Prophet himself, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, said, نَضَّرَ اللَّهُ امْرَأً سَمِعَ مَقَالَتِي. May Allah beautify the face of someone who heard what I said. فَوَعَاهَا. And then he memorized it. فَأَدَّاهَا كَمَا سَمِعَهَا. And then he passed it on like he heard it. فَرُبَّ حَامِلِ فِقْهٍ إِلَى مَنْ هُوَ أَفْقَهُ مِنْهُ. He said, how many a carrier of fiqh there are to who has more fiqh than him. How many a carrier of fiqh there are to who has more fiqh than him. So who's he talking about here? Who's first people applicable to this hadith? The Sahaba. May Allah beautify the face of who heard what I said. Those are the Sahaba first before anybody else. فَوَعَاهَا. And he memorized it. فَأَدَّاهَا كَمَا سَمِعَهَا. And then he passed it on as he heard it. فَرُبَّ حَامِلِ فِقْهٍ. For many of a carrier of fiqh there is. Many a carrier of fiqh there is. That means there are many who heard the hadiths that have the fiqh in them. He carries that إِلَى مَنْ هُوَ أَفْقَهُ مِنْهُ. He carries that hadith to someone who has more fiqh than him. So that includes the Sahaba. That means a Sahabi could have heard a hadith and he wouldn't be a mujtahid, and he conveys that hadith to someone after him, like a tabi'i, and that tabi'i, he would be a mujtahid. Actually, that means he's higher in knowledge than the Sahabi who's teaching him the hadith, and he would understand the hadith better than the Sahabi who's giving it to him. That's a hadith. But if you want to ask more, if you want to follow up your question, go ahead. I'm going to continue now. حتى إذا فشلتم وتنازعتم في الأمر. Until when you cowered and you disputed about the matter. وعصيتم من بعد ما أراكم ما تحبون. And you disobeyed the command of your prophet by abandoning your post for the spoils after Allah made you see what you love. He made you see the victory that you were gaining until the archers left their posts. منكم من يريد الدنيا ومنكم من يريد الآخرة. Among you, or some of you, are those archers motivated by the worldly gain of war spoils. And some of you is who wants the afterlife. Yani, among you is who wants the afterlife. ثم صرفكم عنهم ليبتليكم. Then Allah turned you away from them, changing the situation. Yani, you are on them, you are wiping them out, and then Allah turned you away from them. He changed the situation to let you act by your own volition. That means to test you and then recompense you for your deeds, and not merely by what He eternally knew of you. Yani, to test you. You weren't forced to do what you did. Rather, Allah enabled you to choose what you wanted to do for yourselves. وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. And by God, He pardoned you. وَاللَّهُ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. وَاللَّهُ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And Allah is one who has generosity for the believers. إِذْ تُسْعِدُونَ. When you believers fled into the land. Some said, when you believers fled into the valley. And the meaning is, you didn't climb, you didn't go up. Rather, you went out into the land, or to the valley. Valley, yani, is down. That's when the kuffar came back on the Muslims. After the archers left their posts, and the kuffar noticed that, and then they circled around and attacked the Muslims from behind. So then the Muslims were ambushed and surprised, so they ran. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Maybe, I don't know if you feel like me, just to hear that the Muslims, this happened to them and then they ran, that maybe it makes you feel bad. Maybe it makes you feel embarrassed. وَلَا تَلْوُونَ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ. And you were not turning around for anyone. It's like they say, قَدْ يُقَالْ feet, don't fail me now. Pew! You were running, you didn't even turn around. وَالرَّسُولُ يَدْعُوكُمْ فِي أُخْرَاكُمْ. While the messenger was calling you to come back from your rear. The messenger was behind you, calling you to come back. فَأَثَابَكُمْ غَمًّا بِغَمٍّ لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ. So God recompensed you with gloom for gloom. The gloom that you felt for the gloom that you gave the messenger by disobeying him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Or it means gloom upon gloom. لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ. So that you would become accustomed to forbearance. Forbearance means like patience. And not be sad over what you missed. وَلَا مَا أَصَابَكُمْ. Nor over what afflicted you. وَاللَّهُ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. And Allah is khabir, all-knowing of what you do. ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُم مِّن بَعْدِ الْغَمِّ أَمَنَةً نُعَاسًا يَغْشَىٰ طَائِفَةً مِّنكُمْ. Then, after the gloom, He sent down upon you believers calm. He sent calm down upon you. He sent down drowsiness covering a party of you. That's how at peace you were, that some of you even became drowsy. وطائفة قد أهمتهم أنفسهم وطائفة قد أهمتهم أنفسهم. And another party of hypocrites, yani a party in the midst of the believers, but they weren't believers, they were hypocrites, whose only concern was for themselves. They had no concern about the religion or the Prophet or the Muslims. They were the hypocrites who only cared about their own lives. May Allah protect us. May Allah grant us the concern for our fellows. Ameen. May Allah make us selfless, not selfish. Ameen. يظنون بالله غير الحق. They think other than the truth about Allah, which is that they think that Allah would not support the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ظن الجاهلية. They think according to the paganistic convictions of the time of ignorance. Subhanallah. They think according to the paganistic convictions of the time of ignorance. Subhanallah. That means then that Islam did not affect their hearts as their hearts should be affected. Like how some Muslims are still like that today. Yani, like they think according to the way of their society. They don't think according to religious rules. But they are Muslims though. These ones we're talking about here in the ayah are not even Muslims. But there are Muslims who the standards and the rules of kuffar matter to them. It's like it's valid to them. It's like they don't see the non-Muslim rules as invalid. Those actually are invalid. They don't see non-Muslim standards as invalid. So that they don't think about things in a religious way according to religious rules. They think about things in a non-religious way. يقولون هل لنا من الأمر من شيء. As they think, they say, is there for us concerning the matter of victory anything? They mean, is there any way we can win? قل إن الأمر كله لله. Say, Muhammad, indeed, the matter of victory, all of it belongs to Allah. يخفون في أنفسهم ما لا يبدون لك. While speaking, they hide within themselves what they do not expose to you for fear of the sword. يقولون لو كان لنا من الأمر شيء ما قتلنا هاهنا. Snidely saying to themselves or to each other, had there been anything of the matter of victory for us, we would not have been slain here. قل لو كنتم في بيوتكم لبرز الذين كتب عليهم القتل إلى مضاجعهم. Say, Muhammad, even if you are in your houses, those for whom being killed was written, yani destined, would certainly come forth to where they would fall down slain. It's very strong proof. This is proof that we don't make our own destinies. Even if you are in your houses, if it was willed for you to die, you're going to get up and go out your house and go right to the spot where you're supposed to die, and you're going to die right there. وَلِيَبْتَلِيَ اللَّهُ مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ. And Allah did so to test what is in your chests of sincerity. وَلِيُمَحِّصَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. And to purify what is in your hearts of the whispers. According to Al-Tabari, this addresses the hypocrites, not the believers. It means, so that Allah would test what is in your chests, O hypocrites. You would come forth from your houses to the spots where you would fall slain. And what Allah tests in their hearts is the doubt about Islam. By that, He will distinguish you from the believers. Wallahu alimun bidhati as-sudur. And Allah is knowledgeable of the very chests. Yani Allah is knowledgeable of the chests themselves. Bidhati as-sudur. إن الذين تولوا منكم يوم التقى الجمعان إنما استزلهم الشيطان ببعض ما كسبوا. Indeed, those who turned and fled among you companions on the day when the two armies met to fight at Uhud, it was merely the devil by his whispers who made them slip by their doing, who made them slip by what they did, who made them slip by their doing some of that disobedience of the messenger that they acquired. وَلَقَدْ عَفَى اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ. And by God, Allah pardoned them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ حَلِيمٌ. Indeed, Allah is forgiving of the believers, and Halim, not quickly punishing the sinners. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تكونوا كالذين كفروا وقالوا لإخوانهم إذا ضربوا في الأرض أو كانوا غزا. O those who have believed, do not be like those hypocrites who disbelieved. Do not be like those hypocrites who disbelieved and said about their brothers when some of them go out into the land for trade and the like, and then they die. Or when some of them were invading soldiers, slain in battle. Their brothers means their fellow hypocrites. Because the hypocrites had their own society. They were a secret society amongst the Muslims. They knew each other, the Muslims didn't know them. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O those who have believed, la takunu kalladhina kafaru. Do not be like those hypocrites who disbelieved. وَقَالُوا لِإِخْوَانِهِمْ. And they said about their brothers by blood or their brothers in hypocrisy. إِذَا ضَرَبُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ أَوْ كَانُوا غُزًّا. When some of them go out into the land for trade and the like, and then they die. Or when some of them were invading soldiers slain in battle. What did they say that the believers are commanded not to imitate? They said, لو كانوا عندنا ما ماتوا وما قتلوا. Had only they stayed here with us, they would not have died, and they would not have been killed. ليجعل الله ذلك حسرة في قلوبهم. Do not be like them, so that Allah would make that be grief in their hearts and not yours. Yani, the believers don't have this attitude. So the believers will not grieve like those people will grieve. It is their kufr that makes them suffer in this way. And the believers, it is their belief that would protect them from suffering from the death of their brothers, like the way the hypocrites suffer. Wallahu yuhyi wa yumit. And it is Allah who grants life and makes the living die. So falling back will not fend off death. It's not falling back from the battle that's going to fend off death from you. Allah Ta'ala is life creator and death creator. Khalid ibn al-Walid, he didn't even die in battle. He died on his bed. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. And Allah is of what you do seer. وَلَئِن قُتِلْتُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَوْ مُتُّمْ لَمَغْفِرَةٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَحْمَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. And by God, if you were killed while fighting for the sake of Allah, or you died, then by God, forgiveness from Allah and mercy is better than whatever they amass of the earthly life. وَلَئِن مُتُّمْ أَوْ قُتِلْتُمْ لَإِلَى اللَّهِ تُحْشَرُونَ. And by God, if you died or were killed, then certainly for the judgment of Allah shall you be gathered in the afterlife. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. And so, by a mercy from Allah were you, Muhammad, gentle and easygoing with them when they opposed you. You aren't rough with them, O Muhammad, when they opposed you. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك. And had you been coarse and ill-mannered and hard-hearted and stern, they would have dispersed from around you, O Muhammad. Very important. I remind myself. Had the Prophet ﷺ not been gentle, mannerly, easygoing, etc., they would have dispersed from around him. This is very important for any person in a position of authority or influence, not to be mean, not to be a jerk. And I remind myself, I think sometimes I am like that, but maybe I got better. Then they would have dispersed from around you. فاعف عنهم واستغفر لهم وشاورهم في الأمر. So pardon them for what they did O Muhammad, and seek forgiveness for them for their sins. And when you did not receive a revelation, consult with them to capture their hearts and to establish a prophetic practice. Prophetic practice of consulting. It's sunnah. The Muslims, they should consult with each other. It's important. Even if you think you have a good idea, you might really do, but still, listen to what someone else has to say. I can remember some cases when really I thought I had a good idea. Maybe it's a good idea, but I listened to some other people. So I didn't do what I thought I should do. Some people, they're not asking for any advice from anyone, and they're only going to do what they want to do. But you see counsel with knowledgeable people and wise people. Some people have knowledge, but they're not wise. I've seen that, yani, or unless I read the situation wrong, but yani, I don't think I did. فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ. So pardon them for what they did and seek forgiveness for them for their sins, O Muhammad. وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. And when you did not receive a revelation, consult with them to capture their hearts and to establish a prophetic practice. Yani, consult with them in the affair of warfare or otherwise. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Then, when you have decided, rely on Allah. Inna Allah yuhibbul mutawakkilin. Indeed, Allah accepts those who are reliant. Some of the pious ones, some of the wise ones, the old Salaf scholars, they used to hate to change their minds. When they made a decision, then they would follow through with their decision. Personally, I find this good practice. Doesn't mean you're never ever going to change your mind. No. But this is important for some reasons. One of them is that if you change your mind frequently, the devil will play with you. And then he's going to make you always doubtful, always changing your mind. You never can just make up your mind about something and move forward. Rather, you're just going to be stumbling and bumbling between issues, never moving forward, never progressing. Because the devil sees that you can't make up your mind. And also, another reason why once you made a decision, Yani, it's a good general rule to stick to your decision, stick to the plan, because if you change your mind means you need to make a new plan. Yani, if you have a plan, you need to make a new plan, new arrangements. So then you need to ask yourself, is it worth it? So that's why it's a good idea in general that if you made a plan and you made a decision, stick to your plan and move forward. But you might change your plan if you need to. Then, Yani, if you do like I'm telling you now, when you do sometimes change your plan, it's going to be because you were wise. It's going to be because you thought it through and you knew that it's better for you to do this. You're not just changing because you're just an indecisive person. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Then when you have decided, rely on Allah. Inna Allah yuhibbul mutawakkilin. Indeed, Allah accepts those who are reliant. And the reliance on Allah Ta'ala has a secret. Yani, rely on Allah, you will probably, if also, yani, you acted wisely, you used what you had at your disposal, means, your normal means. You didn't ignore the normal means of things. You didn't fall short. You weren't lazy. And then you got involved in something. Once you did everything you could do, then rely on Allah. Yani, that room for error and that room for even doom or trouble, that right there, which you couldn't account for, which you couldn't cover, which you couldn't thwart, and you did everything else you could do as much as you could, then up till there, you do like that, and then rely on Allah for the rest. And this reliance on Allah Ta'ala has a secret. Insha'Allah Ta'ala, you'll be successful. And relying on Allah means that you believe firmly that the real creator of harm and benefit is Allah. Yani, no one will harm or benefit in reality if Allah didn't will for that harm or benefit to happen. إن ينصركم الله فلا غالب لكم. If Allah supports you against your enemies, then there is none who could defeat you. SubhanAllah. وإن يخذلكم فمن ذا الذي ينصركم من بعده. And if he forsakes you, then who shall be the one to support you after his forsaking you? وعلى الله فليتوكل المؤمنون. And upon Allah let the believers rely. Wallahu alam. Let's stop here. Any question? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Which names of Allah, which names of Allah would I recommend to say as dhikr? Uh, well, if you want something easy and if you want something easy and one that you could say many times, then I'd say, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. You don't even have to use your lips for that. Ya Allah. But otherwise, it depends on if you want something that if there's a benefit you're looking for. If you need your heart strengthened, say Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum. Or you could say Ya Qawiyyu Ya Mateen. Yani, if you want, you could say both of them. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum Ya Qawiyyu Ya Mateen. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum Ya Qawiyyu Ya Mateen. For strengthening the heart. Or you could say one of those, which is Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, that's one. Or Ya Qawiyyu Ya Mateen, that's one. Or if you want your dua answered, then say Ya Dhal Jalali Wal Ikram at least 300 times. Say it 1,000 if you want, and then make dua. And also, I would suggest learning the names of Allah, the 99 names, and then just trying some different things. Maybe you'll find a secret. Every day, uh, Well, every day for sure is good thing and rewardable. But maybe sometimes some of those things you would use them or do them when you need them, because that's what's going to cross your mind. You would say, I wish I could get an answered dua. I need my dua answered. Let me say, Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram so many times. Or you might say, my heart now feels weak. I feel nervous. I am afraid. Let me say, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum, Ya Qawiyyu, Ya Mateen so many times. Or something else. And you might try some things from the names of Allah Ta'ala. You might discover a benefit. You might get your own secret. Could possibly get your own secret. Something that works for you. I mean,